Hello students, here we have the fifth day of our module. We are on page 15, but really this is still in the day 4 lesson section. Second part of the lesson is simplifying expressions. We've already kind of done this, but this is coming before or coming after we talked about what happens when we distribute a negative. So, simplifying expressions. Write the following expressions in standard form. Okay, standard form is just the way that you would write things, and as you move forward in algebra, that will become a little bit more important. By using the distributive property and combining like terms. Okay, when you guys are working on your checkpoint today, I'm going to ask you a question about why we distribute before we combine. All right, and so I want you to be able to recall what I'm about to tell you here. So in the last lesson, when we talked about simplifying expressions, before we talked about distributing negatives, like in these problems here, okay, I mentioned that the distributive property is the operation of multiplication. Combining like terms is addition and subtraction. Okay? So if we think about our orders of operations, the reason that we always distribute before we combine is because distributing falls into multiplication and division, okay? Whereas combining falls in addition and subtraction. Right? So when I ask you that question, that's what I'm going to be looking for. See if you can get that out of this video. All right, starting, I got 3 examples here. They all look very similar. This one only has 1 set of parentheses. This one has 2 sets of parentheses with 2 numbers in front. This one just has a number in front here, 2 sets of parentheses, and there's no number there, so we'll talk about that. So let's go ahead and get started. Simplifying an expression. Distribute, then combine. Right? So what gets distributed sometimes gets a little bit confusing. What gets distributed is immediately what is connected to the parentheses. Right? So when we distribute this, okay, now we have to recall what happens when we distribute a negative. Okay? When you distribute a negative, the signs change. We talked about that, and actually we just reviewed that before you guys got turned loose on this video. Because you're taking a negative 3 times 2x, negative 6x. You have to see this, that minus sign there, is that number is a negative 4. So you're taking a negative 3 times a negative 4, positive 12, minus 3x. Okay? All right, now as far as combining your like terms, something I think that might help you, for those of you if you're having a little bit of trouble with this, is you have to view these 3 terms as like separate blocks. Okay? So when you're taking this 3x and putting it over here, it's a negative 3x. Right? So negative 6x minus 3x, now we got to remember our integer rules. You combine 2 negatives, it becomes more negative. We get negative 9x plus 12. Right? Okay, moving over to the next one. In this one, we're going to distribute the 2 here. All right, now this is a positive. So remember, you only change the signs if you're distributing a negative number. Because this is a positive 2, we see this as 2 times 3r, which is 6r. This is 2 times negative 8. A positive times a negative is a negative 16. Okay, here, you have to see this as a negative 4. Even though it's a minus sign, but remember, we keep talking about how a minus sign is the same as a negative. So this is a negative 4 times 2r, which is negative 8r. And negative 4 times positive 7, negative 28. Right? Okay. And this is more of a visual for those of you if you're having a little bit of trouble understanding bringing the like terms. All right, so when we line up our like terms, the negative 8r goes under the 6r. The minus sign goes with it. Okay. The negative 28 goes under the negative 16. 6 minus 8, you're combining different, so we're subtracting, taking the sign of the larger, so this is negative 2r. In negative 16 minus 28, you combine 2 negatives, it becomes more negative 44. Done. Right? And then the last one here, here we distribute the negative 6. So negative times a negative is a positive, so this is 12t. Negative times a positive is a negative 48. All right, now for this one, the negative sign gets distributed. And if you need to put a 1 there, we can put a 1 there. So you're really distributing a negative 1. which all it does, this is like those subtraction problems we did a little while back. All it does is change the signs. Right? So now when I line up my like terms, the negative 8t and the plus 10. Okay? Right? Negative 48 plus 10 would be borrow 48, you pay back 10, you still owe 38. Okay? And then 12 minus 8 is 4t. Okay? All right, so for your checkpoint, exercise number 2, and then there's a challenge problem. So we're going to spend some time working on these problems here. And then from there, we will move on to the next section. So for recorded lessons, simplifying expressions with negatives, this is Mr. Sims signing off.